What is your final consensus on this? Because everyone knows, obviously, with me, like I'm all in on the Anthony Poindexter train, and there may be some personal bias in there, but I really don't give a I love the guy, and I hope he gets. I hope he does a good job.
I'm right behind you with Coach Poindexter. I don't personally know him like you do, but my interaction with him last few years have been great. You know, kids seem to love him, and like we said, he's a bona fide like baller, or was a bona fide baller. Like any kid coming in, safety or not, it's like how could I not take heat from this guy? You know, he's been there and he's done that at the highest level. So, and also a great personality. That's a big deal. And I know for a fact he instills that confidence that we always talk about. I see the way the safeties play now. I mean, it's that confidence. So I'm actually fully behind that.
Quarterback sneak right side, touchdown, Penn
And stay faithful. We got the bowl game merch for you guys. Hoodies, tees, long sleeves, whatever you feel like wearing, we got it for the 2023 Peach Bowl. Check out the We Are Feeling Peachy gear in the link below. Have fun in Atlanta and looking forward to it. We're back again. This is The Pocket. We appreciate you guys listening in with us, especially during these tough times, because that's what they are. Tough times, not having consistent football. But I will tell you what, dude, and you know, you asked the question earlier in the year about, you know, what's the one rivalry game you'd kill to play in? And the Army-Navy game this weekend saved it for me. I love that game. It's all these people are hammering me for, Michigan, Ohio State's the best rivalry, da-da-da. Army-Navy gets its own weekend. No other rivalry gets its own weekend. Army-Navy gets its own weekend, the pageantry, everything involved. It's just the best, dude, and no one's going to change my mind. So at least I had that, dude. That was my saving grace this weekend.
I saw you were hyped, tuned in.
Hayes was all fired up.
Right, we got to get you down there. We got to get you suited and booted. I know you just got elevated. Shout out to Mercury and you moving on up.
Yeah.
Got to get you on the sideline, get some content, you know?
Dude, I don't even want to get content. So the reason one of the main reasons I love that game, my dad's brother, my Uncle JD, played at West Point. Right. He never lost it. I think maybe he lost 1 year, but he was 3 for 4, or he was undefeated against Navy. So, and my cousin played quarterback up there as well. So I got some ties at West Point. But my dad's been to 3. My dad been to 3 of them. So my dad's like, dude, like, my dad followed us around. Our pops they're all talk. They're here, there, all around. My dad's like, dude, nothing compares to that game. Like, the atmosphere of it. He goes, nothing compares. He's like, the whiteout's fantastic. You can't touch some stuff. He goes, it's just so different. So we've been grinding on my Uncle JD hard. To kind of
get the end
poke. We're trying to tee it up maybe next year or the year after. I want to make sure my son can actually kind of
enjoy
it, So, or at least maybe not enjoy it, whatever, but just remember.
No,
I want
he knows what's going.
Yeah. I think they're in DC next year too. So be a little.
Yeah, that'd be cool and to enjoy for sure.
Yeah.
You got 3 generations of Hackenberg. That'd be a cool sight to see for sure.
Yeah, no, it'd be sweet, dude. So that was my saving grace this weekend, and then we got some games coming up this weekend too. So the lull is slowly starting to simmer out, and we're gonna pick things back up here. But with all that, I feel like this is also the time of year where you start seeing all these things happen. It's not necessarily the football, but it's all the backdoor stuff. You have all these coaches openings. You see Fran Brown get the job at Syracuse. He pulls our guy Big E up there as the DC. They're snagging recruits. They're hitting things hard. The portal's on fire right now. So there is a lot to talk about, but it's not the stuff we here at The Pocket have typically talked about. So we're going to dive into some of that stuff as well today. But other than that, B, what did you have this weekend? What were your highlights?
Man, what saved me was work, honestly. I was able to go out there. It really was. As far as sports related, I was able to go out to Vegas for the in-season tournament. A lot of busy days, long days, but the game was cool. The product was cool. Been tuning in a lot more basketball because of work, so it saved me from some of the dreadful highlight football games in the NFL. The marquee matchups, some of these Monday, Thursday night games have been kind of brutal, but
yeah,
that's what saved me. Good hoops, Lakers, LeBron. I mean, you can't beat it. Get to see those guys play up close, so that was pretty cool.
You may have touched on it, B, but explain to these listeners what you're doing, because I think it's pretty cool now that you're on the front side of this. Like I said, I think we did touch on this early on in this series, but explain to these people what you're doing over there right now.
Yeah, so right now, I mean, just all in general, since I got done playing, I kind of ventured to the film and television side of sports, other side of the camera, and was able to work for NFL Films as a producer, editing, podcasts, documentaries, whatever you name it. So that's kind of my space now. And right now, at this moment, I'm working with NBA broadcasts. So when you guys watch TV or watch the game on TV, I'm assisting and making sure all that goes accordingly, along with a plethora of other things, that maybe aren't as exciting as far as a work day. But it's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of, former teammates, guys hit me up because everyone wants to still be involved in sports. So, podcast is a great way. You see a lot of guys got the podcast, us included. And just, keeping football, basketball, the things we love around. So I can't complain, really. Pretty cool. Get to come here and still talk ball. I don't really talk basketball that much as I know ball, but
Nah. I remember the locker room days, dude. There were so many knockdown, drag out hoop conversations and hoop in the locker rooms.
Shoot, you remember we had basketball class. I think it was one summer.
Yeah.
Me, you, a couple guys had hoop class as a little what do you call it? The 1.5 credit classes. What do they call them?
Electives or whatever.
Electives. Yeah. Basketball hoop. And it was tough because it was in the summer. And for the life of us, we had workouts right after.
Oh, yeah.
But we couldn't help but go hard. A few days I had to chill out. Like, I can't do both.
I can't
go hard with ball. And survive.
Coach Morse still texts me every once in a while, which is
the coach.
Cool.
Really? That's good. Yeah, man. Sure. Is he still there?
Yeah, he's up there. He's done, but he's up there. I saw him at the Coaches vs. Cancer last summer. He's up there, doing his thing. But that guy's seen some stuff, man. Because he wasn't just – I mean, he coached that class taught that class, I guess you could call it DB coaching, whatever. But he was in that class forever, man. He's had a lot of football players took that class. So I guess that's his version of basket weaving.
I had a few fun electives. I think that summer was basketball, and then that fall I was set to graduate. I had 3 classes my senior year, and I had a dance class. That was actually – very informative, very fun. But I got hurt that season. As many remember, I was out like 4 or 5 weeks on crutches at one point. And this is how serious that class was. I'm on the side just taking notes. And the instructor goes, what do you plan on doing? I was like, I don't know. I mean, I can't dance. He's like, no, I need like a report on this dance, where it came from, why do we do it, how many steps it has, the whole time. And I'm a senior about to graduate, trying to enjoy life. I'm like, whoa. It's a little bit more work than I signed up for. I thought I was just going to hit my little 2-step and get out of here, my little waltz.
That's a little.
I did learn.
That's good stuff, man. Well, like I said, we got some cool downtime stuff to talk about, and I'll just start with this: the slate coming up for this Saturday. We got Georgia Southern in Ohio and the Myrtle Beach Bowl. We got the Cricket Celebration Bowl with Howard and Florida A&M. We got the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl with Jacksonville State and Louisiana. The Avocados from Mexico Cure Bowl, Miami of Ohio and App State. We got the New Mexico Bowl with New Mexico State and Fresno State. We got the Starco Brands LA Bowl hosted by Gronk with the home team, the UCLA Fighting Bruins and Boise State. And then to cap the night off, we got the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl with Cal and Texas Tech. So we got a couple brands there. Got a couple other teams that I'm going to be completely honest with you folks. I didn't even watch, don't even know how the hell they did, what they got going on. But it's football. So
right.
Which one of those are you most looking forward to this weekend?
Oh man, I heard you say Gronk, so hopefully he shows up, and that's fun.
Yeah, and it's a good matchup. UCLA, or at least historically speaking, UCLA and Boise State.
Right.
That'll be good. I think that's.
Well, riddle me this. Riddle me this. First slate of bowl games, as you said.
Yeah.
I'm sure people will tune in, but it brings to the conversation with the playoffs. Do bowl games still matter?
Dude. Listen, I think there's a fine line. I think for some of these programs, like this is great, right? Like you get the kids an extra chance to strap them up, those seniors, and some of these kids, most of bowl season is nationally televised no matter what. So you have people paying attention, get eyeballs on it. So it's good for visibility purposes. I would have never sat out just because, you know what I mean? Or I would have never opted out or whatever. It's just not in my DNA. But, I don't know, man. It's tough. And there's I just rattled off those names. Like, it's like Gronk is basically in a title sponsor for one of these bowl games. And that's not knocking Gronk, hell of a player. But, like, this stuff hadn't happened, previously or in recent memory. It's just gotten to be, the Kleenex Bowl and, you got the Clorox Bowl, the Kleenex Bowl, and the Windex Bowl. They're just making stuff up now and grabbing things out of thin air. So it's to answer your question, I think they matter. I think they matter for the guys. Just the visibility of it. When you start flooding the market, I think it becomes a little less tolerable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, as you said, for the guys, the players, like I said, another chance, lace them up, the last chance for many guys to play football ever, really, for a good majority, So on that aspect, I get it. It's fun. Chance to go out of the state for some and, experience a new town and things like that. But, it gets a little laughable, some of the names you read off. But I guess, like you said, it's football. We all, this dead period, we all need it. For the college football fans, it's people. I'm gonna turn on some of these games. Whether I sit there and analyze it, but I'm gonna have it on.
Oh,
so
sure.
It's good to have it all on.
For sure. And like you hinted at, with this 12-team expansion for the playoffs, you're gonna get some more marquee matchups and some more like primetime games. So for television, everything, it's gonna be good. Especially early on in this bowl season, you're really gonna play the season out with meaningful games pretty much every weekend, all the way until the beginning of January. So I think that's good. And I think that's, all the economic benefits of the home game series and stuff like that. It's going to be fantastic. So I'm looking forward to it, but I don't want to sleep on it. You know what I mean? I got, we got, like I said, we got some ball, so it will be on, it will be fun. And we'll be talking about it. Now another portion of this that you talked about, we talked about the transfer portal, everything that's been going on. I mean, it's been a freaking carousel, dude. You got, the surprises like the Kyle McCords of the world entering and the Dylan Gabriels even, going on his third school, another name brand, big brand going to Oregon. Like, it's crazy, man. And we got some mailbags on this too. So I don't want to, maybe we'll even just touch on it just because, but the unrestricted free agency that this has become. And then now you're starting to see these bidding wars for the name, image, and likeness of all these guys, their true values. It's crazy. And I think it's a good thing. I think the players deserve the right to do things. But again, it goes back to just my biggest qualm with how they roll all of this stuff out from the NCAA is they just make it the Wild West and then they have to pull things back. And it adds more confusion and hurdles to the process. Whereas if you just put a little bit of thought into it and a little bit of barriers into it at the beginning, you wouldn't have to deal with these issues. And, I think the adjustments would become much more minor and minuscule in the grand scheme of things and much easier to appease the masses with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you look at some teams like Penn State and some of these larger teams that are going out, the Notre Dames of the world, Landon Riley Leonard, you're really just filling gaps, right? And I think it's almost like a two-tiered system, right? You have the cream of the crop that's just going, oh, we need this and we need this gap to take us to the next level. And I think that's where Penn State is. So I want to dive into some of Penn State's targets after that. But then I also want to hammer home this point of like, then you have like that middle and second tier where you're just seeing teams turn over rosters, and they're just like, screw it, you played here, come on over here, let's see if it works out here. And you're seeing just like mass changes in these rosters and culture and all this stuff, and it just presents a bunch of challenges, and it shows that there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat. But what are your thoughts on that? I think it's just a really unique thing. Like you see some approaches with the brands that are more entitled than others, I guess you could say, the bigger brands that are just kind of cherry picking what they want. And then it's like, then it's just like the scraps for everybody else. And it's just a free for all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough. And I mean, I can't remember if we touched on it last pod, but I know we said it maybe on or off camera. There was about 3,000. This was last week. It was definitely more now. There's about 3,000 kids that entered to the portal.
Yeah.
That's an insane amount of kids as far as teams and how many kids actually play. So it's definitely the wild, wild west, as you said, and the way it's rolled out. Now we got to rein things back in. And the more and more I hear about it, even what you said, the teams that are kind of just like, hey, come play here, you're affecting your recruiting in a sense, in some degree.
On a large degree. I mean, the high school kids are the ones that do all of this.
You ask a team, the team personnel, they say, no, it's not that big of a deal. But for everyone else, it's like there's only a certain amount of scholarships, there's only a amount of players on the field. You get a receiver or a tight end, whatever position that comes in, has 1 year eligibility, he's going to get – they want him to come here to get that last year, right?
Yeah.
That could potentially, turn off a kid that you don't know may be a stud that wants to come play for you. But he's like, nah, let me go here. I mean, my chances of playing here are better. And it may be a time where you see guys miss out on diamonds in the rough. That 3-star tight end that is going to come in and develop and ball out. He may go elsewhere because you got a 4-year starter coming in to essentially take that spot for a year, rent the spot for a year.
Well, I think it's funny because it's a trickle-down effect, right? Like I've said this for the last couple of years since the transfer portal has been a thing, but you're starting to see the dissemination of talent now across the landscape, right? Like the JMUs of the world and some of those smaller brands that are getting really good kids that almost benefit from the transfer portal, at least in that recruiting stage where they're now getting those borderline kids that may or may not be necessarily as polished coming out of their senior year of high school, but you get them in the system for a year, they get in a weight training program, they start getting some confidence, and now they're really good players. And then on the flip side of that, the hard part is then keeping them, right? Because then they're going to go and get rented. So it's like almost this big double-edged sword and conundrum where like at the ground level, you're starting to get much more like you're for sure I'm just saying this because it's what they do. I don't believe in it too much, but you're for sure like can't miss 4 or 5-star guys are landing where they need to land. But then those borderline guys who, like you said, maybe projects or developmental kids, they land at some program that probably wouldn't have been on their choice, and now their parents and all them have to start setting expectations differently, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. But, the beauty of it then is just because you start there doesn't mean you're going to finish there.
Right. And I mean, shoot, with NIL, that's a big part of it too. Hey, I balled out at JMU or FIU or wherever.
Yeah.
And now I'm a top guy. Why not transfer up, tap into a bigger network of alumni and the whole deal, that bigger pockets pretty much, let's call it what it is, into a Power 5 university and see where that takes me. Obviously it increases my chances of going to the next level. And also, why not, try to fill my pockets up a little more in the meantime. So
yeah,
it's definitely a double-edged sword, but I do like the evening of the playing field, or whatever you want to call it. I think that has showed its face already. Sometimes it does take one guy to make one play for one team in one moment, and that could be a transfer kid or whoever it may be.
Well, and I think this takes us into that conversation, like you said, of the high school recruiting, right? Like, what do they sign? 20 to 25 kids a year usually? Isn't a recruiting class somewhere in there? And if you go and you take 7 or 8 portal kids, now that high school number goes down drastically. You did some good research on the Big Ten, and then as it stands now, and now what the Big Ten will be next year,
right,
with the addition of a few of those West Coast teams. And I think we touched on this lightly on a few other episodes, just about that blue chip rating or whatever has been made up now about the compilation of 4 and 5 stars on the roster and stuff like that, and the ratios. But what do you got from that? Because I think this is going to lead us down another interesting conversation surrounding just recruiting as a whole.
Yeah, so I just looked at the Big Ten for what it is and what it foreseeably will be. I know we don't pay too much attention to the stars as players. It's the first thing you hear when you step on campus. Like, oh, all that star shit, leave that in high school.
Yeah.
You got to earn your stripes, whatever, which is true, 100% true. But then, we look at it as those top dog teams, they have a guy. And not all the time, but usually that guy may be a 5-star. So there is some truth to the developmental kid that's maybe a 3 or 4-star, if you count 4 stars as that, or the 5-star who's supposed to come in and have an immediate impact. And at the top of our, division or conference, Big Ten, Ohio State is number 1, number 2 in the country overall. And they have 5 5-stars, 19 4-stars, and only 5 3-stars with that composite rate of 298.54. This is per 24/7 Sports. I don't know how they do the composite rate, because us as Penn State, we're number 3 in the Big Ten, but our commits right now are the exact identical same as Michigan, but we're ahead of them by 1 spot, which is kind of confusing. I don't know how that works. We're also number 13 in the country. Michigan sits at 16.
Yeah.
Our composite rating is 266.94. Theirs is 260.02. I don't know how that goes, but I'm paying attention to it just because with the new squads coming into it, Oregon, USC, I thought they may have a little drop off or maybe an increase due to the Big Ten shift. I'm not sure if it really factored in. I think Oregon has had the same amount of kind of recruiting success they've always had, because they're coming in to be in a number 2 class into the Big Ten. 0 5-stars as well, 19 4-stars, 4 3-stars, which their number is also kind of identical to ours. So I don't know how they do these ratings, but
yeah,
there is some science to it, because I'm just looking at our commits. We have 3 wide receiver commits so far in the high school class. So far, back in the high school class we're just having, we all know we're actively in the transfer portal wide receiver market. A number of guys taking official visits, set to take official visits, have offers from us as Penn State. We touched on one last week, kid, was it North Texas, I believe it was. And we've got some more guys, with offers, official visits. I know we're going to touch on the kid Julian Fleming out of Ohio State. I believe he was a PA kid, one of the
Southern
5. Yeah.
Yep.
He's set to have an official visit. I know Penn State wanted him, pretty bad coming out. I'm sure he still has a relationship with Coach Franklin. A lot may have said, hey, if you would have came here from the beginning, you might have had a little bit more success. But, that's why you don't burn bridges. That's why you don't burn bridges. A lot of I have some horror stories with high school coaches that had some choice words for me when I decided to go or stay at Penn State, for that matter, and kind of give them the stiff arm. So,
yeah.
To Coach Franklin's, point, the family and, relationships, it is a big deal. So that's good. We'll see where it goes with that. The kid Will Shepard you mentioned last week for Vanderbilt also, has an offer and hopefully is set to take an official. See how that goes. And the kid from North Carolina just had an official. And what I love about it is that they're all bigger receivers. I keep talking about that bigger physicality, speed. But I'm going to keep harping on it. Going against those 2 guys, up out east, northeast a little bit, Ohio State, Michigan, they're all lining up with big corners that can run fast, they're going to grab you. So we got to counteract that. So I like what I'm seeing so far from our receiver recruiting. We'll see how that affects the high school level. Hopefully guys keep coming. The guys that are there, the guys are coming, get developed, and we put out a good product out there.
Well, I want to bring this back home like you did at the end there. I thought you did a good job, but like when you look at how we've recruited traditionally under Coach Franklin, he's always had success. We've had I would venture to say at least top 20 classes every year he's been there.
100%.
And I think he does take he makes it a priority to ensure that he does grow at least the foundational part of the program from the ground up, from the grassroots, old school recruiting, right, straight from high school type of mentality. And what's kind of interesting with that is now we're starting to see some, and I'm not going to call them deficiencies because I still think, and I've said this, I still think we could win with who we have and compete with the Michigans and Ohio States of the world with who we have. It's just more so schematic and how we have them in positions to be successful and things of that nature. And I don't want to continue to beat a dead horse. And he's going to get his chance to do that for us here next year. But, when you are going to dip into the portal, I can think of a few. We had the Tinsley kid who came in from, I think, Western Kentucky, who is a pro now, had a good year when he came in with Clifford. I just think that we really need to make sure that when we do dip into the portal, these are home run, like, you're not going into the economy renter section in Hertz and pulling out a freaking old reliable Pacifica. You know what I mean? Like you're going into the presidential suite and grabbing you a Shelby GT 500 that can scoot. You know what I mean?
Ready to go.
You know what I'm saying? And I think you have the chance to do that here. And you named a couple kids who at least surface value and then what they've done in their previous schools, have that. When you look at the intangibles, you look at the measurables, and then you look at some of the statistics to back it up. They're guys who can go, and you hope that transformation and that shift in scenery is smooth, and these guys can make an impact for us. You mentioned Julian Fleming, and it's just the funny thing about the world we live in today. Think about it when we were coming out. If you were the number one recruit in the state of Pennsylvania and you basically gave Penn State the finger and went to Ohio State, and now you got all these fans on the message boards and hitting us up on Mailbag Monday saying, what's the chances to get this kid back now? Like, we're all like, what do we got to get him now? We'll take him on second rent. We'll take his seconds here, which is funny to me. But in terms of how that all changed, but thinking about it from a homegrown standpoint, just filling gaps, right? And I'd be curious to get your thought on, I think the offensive side of the ball has showed this year a little bit more than the defensive side of the ball where those gaps may be. What do you think defensively if we do dip into the portal? What are some gaps or not even gaps, but where do you think they'd be looking if they were looking for anything out of the portal on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I think it falls along your point of getting a home run guy. Of course, there's always a linebacker or any position that you could go and grab, and probably a solid player, good kid, and can make an impact, But it comes down to are you signing him, getting him just to get him, just to add depth? I don't think Penn State's in the transfer portal market to get depth, just for surface value, to say, we're in there to get guys.
Because they've done a good job recruiting. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Good point. Great point. So if there was a position
like that, you're now taking away reps from the Tony Rojas's of the world and stuff like that.
Exactly.
If you bring in a linebacker with a year eligibility, that's
exactly.
Those are valuable reps for a young guy.
Exactly. And so perfect. That linebacker position right there. I've seen some talks of some guys in transfer portal. And obviously, I feel a way. It depends how the coaching staff feels, how the new linebacker coach that comes in feels. If we're going to just stay on linebacker and defensive coordinator in general, whoever we decide to get, maybe he has guys that come with him that are, vets in the college game. That's a possibility to where that could be beneficial. They know the system that's coming in. Like I said, it's plug and play. And it may hurt that it takes away reps from a guy that we like. Just keeping in linebacker position like a Tony Rojas, who I believe said him beginning of the year. I saw he said his favorite player is Fred Warner, and he physically can look like him, and can put it all together, could be a Fred Warner type player, and that'll be big time. But the one position I would say is probably interior D-line. There's a lot of talks about that beginning of the year, but even more importantly now, we got guys leaving. The guys that were questionable, that played their ass off all year. I think we touched on it, may or may not be here next year due to, just moving on. So I think you can never have too much D-line depth. We all wanted the big, huge guys, the 6'6" guys, whatever it may be. So, I'm never going to knock getting one of those guys. DBs, we will be a little young, depending on what happens with King. But Johnny Dixon, we touched on, will be leaving. I believe his eligibility is up. So we will be young, but we've had so many guys play. Similar to Tony Rojas, I feel good about the homegrown talent there.
We've always done a good job recruiting in the secondary.
That's why I'm not too worried about the new DC that comes in. Comes in or is raised up, hopefully brought from within, but not too concerned with the defense.
So what is your final consensus on this? Because everyone knows, obviously, with me, like I'm all in on the Anthony Poindexter train, and there may be some personal bias in there, but I really don't give a fuck. I love the guy, and I hope he I hope he does a good job. And another guy I don't want to shun is Coach T. Smalls, but I don't think Terry Smith wants to. At this point in his career, I think he's really, and I may be talking for the man. I don't want to speculate, but I know Coach Smith, and I think that he really likes what he's doing, and I think he takes a lot of pride in that room. And I just don't know if he wants all that. You know what I'm saying? I think he just I think he likes where he's at. I think he likes helping Coach Franklin as the associate head coach. I think he obviously loves the program, played here, bleeds blue and white, and the way he's represented the program has been fantastic. And I just think I'm just not quite sure if that step, this point in his career, is really something that he's looking for. And if I'm wrong, I hope he gets his chance as well, just because he's, you know what I'm saying? But you mentioned, some guys. Do you got a short list of guys out there who may or may not still be on the market that you think would be good fits for us, at least defensively from a philosophy standpoint?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't. Like I said, I'm not too worried about it. I hope I'm right behind you with Coach Poindexter. I don't personally know him like you do, but my interaction with him last few years have been great. Kids seem to love him. And like we said, he's a bona fide baller, or was a bona fide baller. Any kid coming in, safety or not, it's how could I not take heat from this guy? He's been there and he's done that at the highest level. So, and also a great personality. That's a big deal. And I know for a fact he instills that confidence that we always talk about. I see the way the safeties play now. It's that confidence. So I'm actually fully behind that. And if not him, back to T. Smalls, I agree with you there too. He's been doing it at a high level as well. You would imagine that if he did want that, be a D coordinator somewhere or to have that role, he probably would have taken it. I'm sure he's had his chances and had plenty of calls, people trying to poach him. Super tight end to Pittsburgh, Western PA, high school. It's another benefit that we have at Penn State with having him on staff. Long time roots there, was great coach down there as well. So, and I know, like I said, we're not speaking for the man. Love T. Smalls, but I know he loves and enjoys his family. And we know how much coaching is, and obviously becoming a D coordinator will be even more responsibility. So I agree with you. I think he likes his role right now. And obviously anybody that steps up into that position will have him, Coach Smalls, by their side. So I think that would be a good match. So I'm actually rooting for Coach Poindexter.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of things. We've seen our guy, Elijah Robinson, you mentioned, just going up with Fran Brown. So I don't think he's leaving there, to be honest. Coach Fran's got some motion up there for sure. They're snagging guys. As a South Jersey guy myself, I've known Coach Fran for a while. Ran into him a bunch of times around high school fields, even back when I was training on my own and things. He had his sons out there grinding. So I like Coach Fran a lot. Syracuse making some noise. I don't really have too many names, though. Yeah. I'm with you full board on Coach Poindexter. He knows the guys. I'm sure he'll have his own twists and turns on the system, but once again, system, not worried about it. Players, not worried about it. The brand of Penn State defense is always going to be upper echelon. Even if we're not top 5 every year, it's going to be right there.
Yeah, that kind of speaks for itself. You really just need, like you said, I think it's more the intangibles. It's do the guys want to play for whomever?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really what it comes down to. Is is that person a great motivator? Are they a great teacher? And do they get their energy into those players, which transcends onto the field in terms of how they play with that type of intensity and tenacity. And we've been fortunate as Penn State fans to have had that really during Coach Franklin's entire tenure with Coach Shoup, and then Coach Pry, and you start going down the list. So
that's always the toughest part when guys leave.
Yeah,
to me, it's when you see the players react because they like the guy, they love the guy that much. I know that's how it was when Pry left. Luckily, it wasn't during my tenure, but I remember he was getting calls during our tenure, and he always kept it real with us. Like, hey, so-and-so's calling, I'm taking this interview, and if something does happen, you guys will be the first to know. So saw a lot of the public, reactions from players, and obviously sad to see Coach Diaz go, but the guys, see he has a ton of respect from the guys. And, I'm not sure if we were going to even go into this, but I think that Duke, a lot of people are like, oh, why Duke? Why Duke? Of all places. But that ACC chance to go up back against his old squad that I know he still has a little salt build up. I think all in all, I think he'll do a great job being a head coach again. And I didn't know him personally, but respect to him as well.
Yeah, I've said that too. I want to kind of back down some of the things that I did say. I still am kind of on the why Duke thing because I think that there is a ceiling there, and it's really not for anything that he can control. I think it's just more so like overall support. And when you start talking, now there may be some things that happen in the NIL space and whatnot that make it that kind of level that playing field. But I just think that he's going to have to recruit a certain kid to get to Duke. And, I said this about Penn State too. I think Penn State is and was the same way where there's a certain type of kid in terms of what they're made of that goes to a place like Penn State and goes to a place like Stanford. And I think Duke under Coach Elko has now gotten to the point where they understand the winning culture. And now it's like they've figured out what that kid is and how they get them there. And, it's going to be a lot more ups and downs than a bigger name program. But I think with a guy like Manny running the show and having the experiences he did have at a place like Miami, which was one of those programs where, you can get all the players in the world there because of the history and stuff like that. But I think it's going to be a good fit for him. Do I think it's a long-term stay? I don't know. Maybe if he's comfortable with that, kind of like a Kirk Ferentz type role where he just kind of settles in and enjoys it. You know what I mean? Or Pat Fitzgerald up at Northwestern before this year and all that stuff happened. But I think these personalities fit things well.
Do we know where Coach Fitzgerald is at now?
Penn State faithful. We got the bowl game merch for you guys. Hoodies, tees, long sleeves, whatever you feel like wearing. We got it for the 2023 Peach Bowl. Check out the We Are Feeling Peachy gear in the link below. Have fun in Atlanta and looking forward to it. We are.
Do we know where Coach Fitzgerald is at now? I really liked him a lot. He almost got me out of high school. Northwestern was a quiet number 2 for me.
I like this.
Yeah, everyone liked him a lot. And a quick recruiting story for me in terms of Duke. I remember, obviously, Duke was not what they were now. I remember the coach came to my school, and I was sick.
It's pink eye, right?
Yeah. I think I had pink eye. Don't ask me how I got it. I don't remember. But I remember he didn't tell me he was coming to school. I got a call that morning, and my high school coach called me and was like, hey, Duke coach here. He's like, are you coming in? And I said, no, I'm sick. And the coach, I guess, was kind of pissed off. And he said, like, hey, he asked me, if you're serious about us, we're serious about you. Are we in, like, should I be recruiting you pretty much? And I remember as a 16, 17-year-old kid, I had to tell the man no. And it was just so foreign to me because, like, I'm turning away a possible opportunity of education, full ride, all whoop-de-whoop.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I was like, wow, this is tough. Like, but I told him, like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, I had no intent of going to Duke. So we can just call it right here.
I'm sure he appreciated that deep down.
Yeah. As a kid, I was nervous.
Oh, hell yeah, nervous as hell. All right, so we've talked about this. Let's dive a little bit deeper into this matchup that we got with Ole Miss again, right? We've danced around this for a minute. We kind of gave our high levels, and I'm gonna keep beating home a couple of these points because I truly do think that you can make this matchup as complex as you want, but I really do think it comes down to the styles that make this fight, and it's really going to be Kiffin against our defense and how he can scheme it up. And then I think transversely, when you look at it and you start looking at some of these numbers, Ole Miss, rush defense, they're ranked 67th nationally, giving up 151, 152 yards per game. I think we average about 187 yards per game on the ground, kind of plays right into our bread and butter. I don't think we're going to have to necessarily change who we are from an offensive standpoint to be able to manufacture things. I think we can come in the game, like not but who we are and roll the dice there. So when it comes to styles, I just think we physically need to win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, but specifically on the offensive side of the ball. And so here we go. Our rush defense is third nationally, averaging 2.1 yards per carry, 1.6 yards per carry to be exact. I think we forced Jackson Dart to beat us. We forced Kiffin to do some things, and that's really what it comes down to. I don't think it's you can elaborate on those points and make it more and more complex than it needs to be, but and I think that bodes well. And, we do have Chop out. He opted out. We have a couple other guys who potentially could here, and those are all, to be determined. But then you also had a guy like Theo Johnson say, hey, I'm leaving, but I'm going to play in this game. So I think that bodes well for the offense. But do you have any color to add with any of those things that I threw out there with the matchup?
Yeah, well, in general, the matchup, I think this could be, bias aside, one of the better bowl games, even including the playoffs, I'll say, just because outside of the playoffs, I'm not sure if any other teams, Ole Miss included, are invested in the game as much as we are. I look at Ohio State versus Missouri, we got transfers and this and that, the quarterback's out. I think it takes a little steam out of the game. Obviously not being able to, could be some residual effects, some letdown. Georgia, Florida State in the same regard. Yeah, the team will be pumped up, but when you're not playing in the game you really want to be playing in, think you should be, I think it could take a little bit out of it. So I think Penn State and Ole Miss, two fan bases, two brands that will be fired up, played down there in Atlanta. Definitely just looking forward to it. And then through the matchups you just said, if it comes down to Jackson Dart, making Jackson Dart beat us, which I believe our defense will, I think I'm looking forward to the matchup between on the outside, whatever corners line up. Well, like you said, we'll see what guys come back to play. If King comes back, I think pretty sure Johnny Dixon will be ready to go. But like I said, the young corners and anyone stepping up, like you said, Chop will be out. I don't really sweat that as much as I would like to see those guys play, but I always like the opportunity it brings for the next guy up. So that next DN, whoever may line up, I'm excited for him. There's a chance, probably his first, Chop was out, but another opportunity for him to start his stuff, put more tape out there, get better, improve coming into the next season. The young kid, Dennis Sutton, it'll probably be him, who I think he was a 5-star. If he wasn't, I know he was highly touted. He's been showing his ass all year, playing his ass off, and I think the sky's the limit for that kid. So chance for him to go against SEC opponent, some good players. And on the flip side, I'm looking to Jackson Dart's legs versus our linebackers, DNs, whatever outside support, because I think they'll have to rely on that a little more. Similar to Michigan, they got McCarthy out there, with the full 11 guys blocking and things of that nature. I like Jackson Dart. I think, like I keep saying, he's an athlete. He can definitely make some plays with his arm, but I'm looking to see that matchup between his legs, critical downs, like we didn't do against McCarthy. I will need to see if we can make those plays on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, whatever it may be, rolling out. So I'm looking forward to that matchup. And offensively, I want to dominate these guys. Like you said, that front, similar to what we did against Auburn. I want to see us dominate that defensive line, those linebackers, see these young backs, get free as we did last season. You could see the smiles on their faces, big runs, explosives, and, get us all pumped up for next season as we were last year playing against Utah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you talked about, this being a game that I think a lot of these people are, at least both these teams are going to be highly invested in. I think for Ole Miss, this is their first 11th. This could potentially be their first 11 wins in program history. If it wasn't in program history, it's going to be for a really, really long damn time. So, and then for us, consequently, it'll be back-to-back 11 win seasons and a lot of momentum going into it. So, I think that there's just both conferences adding some big brands here coming in, some playoff brands. I just think it's going to be good. The guy we don't talk about much, and I honestly don't really think, or we haven't touched on much for this game, and we did a little bit last week with Drew, but just I don't think he needs to do anything crazy. Like as weirdly as that sounds, like I just think he needs to play within himself and have just almost an extremely efficient game, very similar to Maryland, very similar to West Virginia, where he just operates at a high clip, distributes the football to his playmakers, and let them do the work for him. I fully expect Ty and Juwan to have a good game plan, and maybe you'll see some wrinkles from Andy now that he's going to be up there just kind of watching and things of that nature, possibly with Bo and getting him involved or whatever. But for Drew, I think this is such a confidence thing. And, I always loved bowl practice because it gave you a chance to reset. My sophomore year, started so high, kind of super lows in the middle. And then we ended in the Pinstripe Bowl with a great performance. And it was just, I reflect on that time. And I really think that just getting back to the basics during bowl prep and really hammering home and understanding a game plan from, not that you didn't understand the game plans, but when you're getting beat up and, and you're hurting and it's this and that, like each week was different. It was just, it was a different mental test to really grasp it all and be on the same page. You get so much time now.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a good reset for Drew. And I don't even think he's an X factor in this game. I just think that for him, it just needs to be about going out and playing winning football, not trying to do too much. For me, more so the X factor, I want to see a guy like Keandre Lambert-Smith have another big game or one of these receivers step up because, like you said, it's been covered and talked about in every media channel about how we're looking to add some more talent to that room. And like I said, I think that that's a talented room. I just don't know how developed and polished it is. And, when you start getting that pressure, iron sharpens iron. Yeah. Competition, tends to bring the best out of folks. And I want those guys to look at this as a great opportunity to set the tone heading into next year and not necessarily scare away any transfers, but kind of, hey, you got a chance to kind of flex it and be like, listen, boys, like this is my room. Any coming in here, like, hey, cool. But I just went for $150 and 3 in the Peach Bowl. What I'm saying? I'm the guy that they're going to be game planning for. So, you got to come in here and play Robin. So I really want to see someone from that room, and that would be my X factor on the offensive side. I look for Katron, I look for Nick to both get theirs. I look for the offensive line to be another, quasi, I guess, lesser X factor. But, talking about what I said, they need to establish dominance at the line of scrimmage. And, I just think Drew's just got to play an efficient game.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, I'm glad we haven't even brought his name up because I know we've been harped on all season, every game, every week. So, yeah, I agree with you there. Just play his game, get the ball to the weapons, and similar to what you said, I mean, these guys have to win, one way or another. And when I say win, I don't mean they have to be wide open every play. I mean, they have to make the best out of the opportunity when the ball comes. And, we sat in rooms, you threw the guys, our, guys, Deshaun, Godwin, Saeed. We got to get Saeed on here at some point. I mean, plethora of guys who kind of had that mentality, as you said, like, okay, Godwin just caught that 20-yard dig and took a hit. Like, I got to one-up it. I got to rip across my guy's face. I got to make that slant when it comes my way, And it's all love and it's all, one team. But it's like, okay, I see what he's doing in practice. He's catching 100 balls on the jugs after practice. I gotta catch 150. We got to do it together. Let's grind. And I hope that's what's going on to kind of build that camaraderie and just, as you said, iron sharpens iron. I mean, I've been talking about this kid, Amari Evans, caught the deep ball against Michigan State. I want to see him get loose. Maybe it doesn't have to be a deep ball every play, but can he run the 10-yard basic on the timing that it's supposed to be within the, the right window in the zone? Because those are the things that, push you up the depth chart. Splash plays, obviously, but can you be where you're supposed to be, the timing and everything like that? And obviously bring the ball in, and we'd love to see one of these guys make something happen, man. So
yeah,
it'll bode well for their confidence in that room. And as you said, they've been hearing all the chirping all year, similar to the D-line. It's fairly warranted until you shut the critics up. So that challenge is on them, and looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah. So, as I said, a little more color. We'll add a little more color next week. And as things, change or don't change, we'll definitely keep talking about it as this is obviously at the forefront of all Penn State fans, and the anticipation's killing everybody. It's killing us here at the Pocket. So, with that, what do you got?
Especially if Lane Kiffin keeps tweeting. It's just funny.
Yeah, dude, he's thanking Chop and wishing him the best of luck. Dude, that guy's fantastic, man. There's
two great personalities that coach in this game too.
Yeah.
I'm sure Lane Kiffin would love. I'm not sure if they played against each other before, maybe SEC, but would love to beat Coach Franklin for the sake of it. And Coach Franklin, likewise, he's not going to tweet about it, but he loved to take down Kiffin for sure.
No doubt, man. No doubt. So. All right, with that, let's jump over to the mailbag. You had a great video this morning, a little Frosty the Snowman in the background, getting in the swing of things. So
you know me, I hate Christmas, so that's all good.
What, you Grinch, dude?
A little bit, man. I'm not gonna lie. For the family, for the kids, it's all fun.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump this, because I think we'll only hit a couple. But I think this is a good one from Chris Binner at CBinner Chris on X. He goes, watch Rutgers DC Joe. Not even going to try to pronounce his last name. It's pretty seems pretty complicated for me and my 12th grade reading level. But the defensive coordinator at Rutgers historically has had very strong defenses, also runs an aggressive style. To me, he's a sleeper and would be a home run hire. So we got a guy, Rutgers. You're a Jersey guy.
Yeah.
Hired him away from Shiano, who started his coaching career at Penn State. What do you think about that? I got one that's kind of off the wall. I think Pat Fitzgerald. You talked about where's Pat. That would be
where's Pat.
That'd be a crazy one. But what do you think about Joe from Rutgers, and then Pat, and then maybe just give me one off the cuff, because I got another one outside of Pat.
Yeah, let me do my 10-second research over here. What is it called? A Harzmiak?
Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, from what I've just witnessed from Rutgers this year, they have changed their brand of football. I'll say that. Obviously, I mean, they won a good amount of games, and they were in a lot of the big games, the big-time games. I will say that, against all the big squads. So defense has definitely improved. I know a lot of those young kids on the defense as well, actually. So I guess I wouldn't be opposed to that. Got to see what the guy's really about, but I'm still on board with hiring from within because there's too many quality guys on our roster or our staff. Even if it's not Coach
Dex.
Coach Dex, excuse me. There's a lot of guys that at least deserve an interview if they would like it, So we'll see. But I think we keep touching on it. We're so close, knocking on the door of getting there. Obviously, Coach Manny leaving, hurts because he was a part of the reason why we're so close. I almost don't want to change too much of the nucleus up that we don't have to, From the player standpoint.
I mean, the familiarity, like the transfer portal, you want to talk about mitigating damage that could potentially be in there. You bring in somebody and, you rub a couple of these young guys wrong or the wrong way and, they hit the portal and now you're kind of, you're scratching and clawing and you're self creating issues. You know what I mean? You're self creating.
That's a fact. Speaking of Shiano, I know he's highly respected, but when Coach Franklin, before he came in, there was talks of him coming in. He rubbed me the wrong way in recruiting. I'm not sure what I would have done, but in my head, I was thinking I wasn't about that. So definitely. Almost best to not shake it up too much. So
right. Yeah, I mean, I think a splash hire like Pat Fitzgerald would be. I think that would be just kind of – you'd have to do something crazy like that where it's like a big recognizable name and, big defensive background. People are all excited. The only other crazy one just because, again, I love talking about taking care of them. Get a guy like Al Golden from Notre Dame, bringing him back home a little bit.
Yeah, he's been talking every time something comes up. His name has been put in there.
So I think that would be interesting. But
I'll do you one. We hire Poindexter up, get Coach Fitz for the linebackers. I don't know where he's at now, but if he's home, opportunity to get his feet back in there. I'm sure he's still probably, residually fine, but get his name back in the football ranks. I know he's a big fan of Penn State. I remember that when I was getting recruited because they offered me first. And I think whenever Penn State came along, he respected it, like, okay, I get it. I know you're a linebacker too. I know what Penn State means. But I high respect for Coach Fitzgerald.
Yeah. Bolstering the staff, man, because that is a good point. We are still going to need to fill a void there. And I think even there we might have a potential to be able to hire from within, get a guy Dan Connor up there or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see.
Where's Marty at, man? I don't know. I know he loves his high school kids right now, but
we'll see.
Still keep in touch.
We'll see.
We want to splash higher.
Yeah. No shit. Get the Bayou backer himself in there.
Bayou backer.
All right, let's go to Andy Rupert. We are to the top. Been a loyal. I can't even say tweeter. Can I say Xer now or something like that? We'll say something. We'll figure it out. But big pocket fan. Big, real active in the mentions. He goes, I've never heard media touch on this. Players unfairly catch most of the heat when they hit the portal, unlike the pros, where we know who elects free agency versus getting released. What percentage of players would you guess enter the transfer portal by free will versus the staff essentially running them off to create space? I think that's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely been part of the reason why I've been a fan of the transfer portal, even though we talk about doesn't work out for everyone. But because that, coaches historically are able to up and leave schools, programs, kids, families kind of high and dry. So definitely a proponent of the transfer portal for that reason. And then what else did he say?
He was talking about, what percentage of players do you think are forced out versus leaving on their free will and electing to essentially take advantage of the unrestricted free agency that is the transfer portal today?
Yeah, I think when you say free will versus forced out, you'd have to ask the kid, because the kid's always probably going to say they were forced out.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything going on where, like, hey, get the F out of here. We don't want you anymore. But as a player, you may feel like, the new recruits are getting shine over you. You're maybe not under the new head coach that came in, so you feel forced out. I mean, I've heard that from several guys. Guys that I know, we know. So that's a tricky. I think it's very gray when you ask that question. But like you said, the unrestricted free agency now, not every player is going to garner that amount of money, attention through NIL, although they may think it. So that's where it gets tricky. You may see a Texas A&M and all the NIL money that they have abundantly available that may or may not be, as we saw the one player say that it ain't what you think it is. We are not getting paid like that. So There's a report that Marvin Harrison supposedly Marvin Harrison Jr. garnering $20 million worth of NIL offers to stay in school, which some say that's baloney and a farce, but who knows,
Yeah.
It's just such a gray area. All in all.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's a good point. I mean, maybe a gray area for sure. But you look, I think the one that has brought that question up, I think more so, has been the whole Kyle McCord situation. And I don't think you're ever going to get a coach who admits to, with the exception of Dion, to basically saying, you better get your ass in the portal because you're never going to play a snap here, so on and so forth. Wild, but I respect it. But I think no coach is really going to admit it, but I think it's one of those things where, you have a kid like maybe Kyle who, for all intents and purposes, 11-1, was driving to go undefeated, put together a really, really good year, but it just didn't seem to be enough for the fan base and at times even the head coach when you watch body language. Maybe the kids wanted some more security heading into the offseason in terms of, being the guy and continuing to develop. And, maybe that wasn't going to be promised or allowed or whatever. So I think that there's just a lot that goes into it. And, again, I think you bring up a good point. I think every kid that hits the portal is going to say they were forced out in some way, shape, or form, but it's all going to be in a hearsay type of manner, because I really don't think you're going to see a lot of coaches, basically say that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, you heard Urban Meyer said it about McCord. Like, why would he do it? Why would he do it? I mean, if you really think at yourself, why? I mean, there's only two or a few reasons why, which you kind of just touched on. I mean, we're never going to hear, verbatim from definitely no one there, but 5 years later in a podcast, Kyle McCord is in the league doing well. We'll hear about it. Yeah,
something's going to come out, which is interesting. But all right, let's my guy Jonathan Coker, probably one of the biggest proponents of the pod, gave us his per usual laundry list of questions, some of which we will touch on, some of which we won't. But let's start with Julian Fleming. Is he coming home? We kind of touched on it. You want to answer that one, and I'll because I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I think he's got. If I was him, I'd be looking at it heavily.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure all his offers, but it sounds good. Coming home, finish off last year college football. Family's right there. Easy to come to the games. Obviously still can help your NFL prospects and opportunities. So I really like it a lot. I mean, I'm not in that kid's brain or house, but maybe that's another question about NIL. I'm sure that's a question he's asking, his family's asking, and to some degree, how much can you help us before this college thing is over? So I'm sure that's a part of his decision.
No doubt. And then Coker giving me a little speculation that I wasn't too privy to. I heard some things, but this is now out there, so I think this is a good conversation. Also, what's your thoughts on rumors of Florida State and maybe one other school going to the Big Ten? If true, hypothetically, what other school would you like to join?
I did not hear that either. What do I think about Florida State? Man,
if you could pick another school to join the Big Ten, who would it be?
I'll just say I think Florida State belongs in the SEC. I think that would just makes more sense. I mean, if they came to the Big Ten, sure, it'd be great. That just seems way more random than ever hearing Oregon's coming to the Big Ten somehow. But another school, who would it be? Who would it be? Who would I like to see in the Big Ten? I'll say, I don't know why this is. I think Iowa State.
Damn.
I don't know why that's coming to me, but I think they're a solid program. They may not be fireworks flashy like an Oregon, USC, but I think they're kind of known, or Kansas State for that matter. They're kind of hard-nosed grittiness to them.
Yeah.
With a little bit of flashy, obviously Iowa versus Iowa State, that makes sense. It gets cold. Both Kansas State, I throw Kansas State in the same regard. I don't know. Kind of the brands seem like they make sense with Big Ten.
I'm going to bring up two, and I think one's obviously a more potential candidate than the other. But I'm going to preface this with, had this been 15 years ago, and this is not knocking my guy, Coach Pry, I think he's trying to get it back to where it was. But I think Virginia Tech would be from a just location. You're bringing in a fan base. You're bringing in a stadium and a venue that's awesome. And like I said, the old Beamer ball, lunch pail. But Foster, that it fit in really well. And then the more outlandish one that I don't think would ever happen just because of their ties to their conference right now, but I think would be, for a lot of the similar reasons, one that would be interesting would be Tennessee. Bringing in the Volunteers.
I like both of those. I mean, Virginia Tech, definitely. I don't know how I even missed that. Shoot, when Pride first left, I hopped on a podcast with some Virginia Tech guys. Shout out to you guys. And that's kind of the reason I said I think he'd be a perfect fit. I mean, the kind of attributes, everything about Virginia Tech screams, Big Ten, very similar to Penn State, and like you said, the brand just makes sense. And then Tennessee as well. I mean, I think location is not even terrible as far as, they don't care about California and Oregon. They don't care.
Location, Blacksburg and Knoxville, stone's throw away. You know what I'm saying? I just think it would be, maybe Ixnay, Florida State, and just get both of those. Maybe give the SEC Florida State for Tennessee, and bring Tennessee and Virginia Tech over. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I don't think Tennessee would even be mad at that. They're probably tired of getting about short end of the stick against Georgia. And they get high quality recruits every year, but kind of similar to maybe how Penn State fans feel. They can't get over that hump against those good teams. So
the funny thing about a school like Tennessee is they got to recruit outside of their state. There's not a ton of talent, not a ton of homegrown talent. So it's the exception of a few states here in the Big Ten is similar to like a Nebraska, similar to an Iowa. You gotta get outside of the home base and the friendly fire and the friendly lines, and you got to get out there behind enemy lines and get some kids. So, Coker, thanks for that question, man. That definitely sparked some inspiration in me. I gotta try to make some phone calls and make that happen.
NCAA probably listening, and they'll probably take our idea and not give us any credit. So
it's okay. Yeah,
that's a good one.
You heard it here first at the pocket. So
it's
another one. B.
Good, thank you, man.
Yeah. So that's another episode of The Pocket in the books. It's been so much fun. We greatly appreciate all of the support, fandom, interaction. It's been really fun growing this, and we're looking forward to many more years of this with you guys. With that being said, we'll be back next week. Hopefully we get to talk a little bit about some ball that happened. I'm sure we will. Marquee, more some midweek games rolling in. That'll be fun. And we're just getting closer to the Peach Bowl at the end of the day. We're getting closer, and that's what we care about. So that'll be fun as well. With that being said, make sure you follow us on all our socials, State Media PSU, follow the mothership Mercury. We do got merch. Our peachy, we're feeling peachy line has been killing it. We appreciate that. If you guys want to, you can also make sure you throw out a promo. There's a promo code for the good folks here at the Pocket. I believe it's the Pocket 15, maybe. That'll get you a little bit of a discount off of that, the Feeling Peachy line. I'll make sure that we get our guys to release that. Do you got the exact definition on that, B? Or am I?
I did not, but we shall get it to you. Tweet it out. Pay attention to the ads that we just named. And yeah, Christmas is around the corner. It's a great gift, especially if you're making your way to the bowl game down in Atlanta. So that'd be good. Tap into it for sure.
Yeah. So make sure you guys hit that up. Continue to look at our merch store. There's going to be more stuff dropping. I may or may not know about it, and there's some stuff that we are brewing up that I think you guys are going to want to look at and potentially invest in, because there will be some cool ties with it. So stay tuned as always.
Hey, shout out to your I just realized this now. You got a Wolverine Logan look right now. See, I don't know what it is, the hair, the goatee. I got a Halloween costume next year.
Halloween, Christmas. Yeah, dude, I'm woofing right now, dude. My wife's like, you got to go get a haircut. I'm like, I kind of dig it right now. It's feeling a little flowy, got some good volume.
Shoot, have you ever thought of bringing the flow back, the 2013 or 14 flow, full flow?
The 13 flow was it was more so the 14 flow. The 14 flow was a little too much, dude. I mean, I was
rock star, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I should have been playing in Nickelback with that. But yeah, I don't know if we'll ever bring that up. But I definitely want a little more lettuce out the back. You know, a little something there could be a little pop.
Let it blow in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see. There's potential. A lot going on here.
Put a poll out there. Pocket fans, Penn State fans. Should Hack listen to his lovely wife, keep his hair short, nice and clean, or go with the flow, feel a little free?
Go Woods been growing out. Maybe go mustache for bowl week.
You guys did straight stash. I remember a few guys did straight stash back in school.
Yeah.
It was a nasty time, I will admit.
Yeah. Anyway, another great episode of The Pocket. Brandon, we appreciate it as always. Make sure you guys do everything I just said, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.